Welcome back to Mentor Nation, the podcast for entrepreneurs looking for real mentorship, real strategies, and real stories so that you can go out and build your dreams. I'm your host, John Abbas, and it's time for another episode, so buckle your seatbelt and let's go. Hey, everyone, and welcome back to the Mentor Nation podcast. John Abbas here, and today I'm excited for you to hear from our guest, because she is going to mentor you on building relationships with your audiences. She's also going to share what metrics matter when you're building a brand or a company. And she's also going to explain why the number of followers you have on social media literally means absolutely nothing. Karlyn Ankrom is the founder and chief creative officer of just a brilliant company called Osnap Social. After years and years of working a corporate job helping brands thrive and connect with their audiences by helping them put together a strong social media strategy, she decided to launch her own company just so she can have a more hands-on approach to getting results. Today, Karlyn is a highly sought-out brand strategist, and in today's episode, she shares some incredible insights for anyone looking to build stronger relationships with an audience. Guys, look, it does not matter if you are a solopreneur, small, medium business owner, you own a brick and mortar and you don't think that this applies to you. Guys, with social media today, people are watching. What you say matters. And so she's just going to share some incredible insights because at the end of the day, thousands of companies are competing for your attention every single second of the day. And so nothing in the world is more powerful than having a strategy for building a relationship where your audience trusts you. Now, before I bring Karlyn on, I want to let you all know that I just started blogging recently, where I can't maybe find a guest to cover a particular topic that you request. I'm spending a lot of my time blogging about just really relevant things that I think will help you. Definitely go check out the blog. Just visit mentornationpodcast.com. Once you go visit the website, just click blog. And I've already got 3 posts up. And the last one, I'm actually kind of proud of that one. That one is looking to be published on a couple of different platforms right now. Just very valuable content on a topic that I'm really, really passionate about. So just check out the blog. And without further ado, please help me welcome Karlyn. All right, Karlyn, thank you so much for being on the Mentor Nation podcast. I am really excited about this interview. It's great to have you.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm pumped up. I'm ready.
Absolutely. So just before we have you share a little bit about yourself, I want to give the audience a little bit of a heads up. So you are the founder and the lead strategist of, let me make sure I'm saying this right, Osnap Social, or is it Osnap? Okay. Okay. So
Osnap, like exclamation.
Got it. Osnap Social. You are a social media strategist. You are a content creation expert. And so basically what that means, because we have a lot of business owners that listen to this podcast. And so, basically what I'm trying to say is you help tons of business owners with a start to finish strategy, maximizing their advertising budget, creating raving fans, building trust, and most importantly, obviously, it's the bottom line, right? Like making more money. And so today, kind of the theme behind our chat is just, why followers don't matter and why it's basically, a terrible metric to be measuring, by the way, in business in general, right? Because it's not how wide you go, it's really how deep. It's the kind of relationships that you have. And so we're going to talk a lot about that. But, before we get into that, can you just share with everybody listening just a little bit about your story and just how you came to be a really credible expert in the space that delivers results?
Yes, absolutely. Once again, thank you so much for having me. My background is journalism. I started back in a day where people were still like their dream job was working for magazines. And I remember sitting in my news writing class and thinking, I don't think I really want to write for a newspaper or magazine. And it wasn't until, Web 2.0 started coming around that I was like, oh my gosh, corporations, small businesses, companies are starting to really leverage the power of the internet from a digital perspective, especially on social, to reach out to their audience in a space where they're already hanging out. So I took a hold of that and ran with it. And I have worked with a lot of startups, a lot of nonprofits, membership organizations, and small businesses, both locally and all over the nation, to help them build those strategies, that content that ultimately converts into paying clients and customers. So yeah.
Gotcha. Now we're going to get into your strategy in just a little bit, but when you spent all these years working with these businesses, like, are there patterns that emerged, or is it just like every business has a different strategy, like completely? Like, do you have to sit down with that business and ask them a bunch of questions, or, is it where like 80% of it is the same and then 20% is customized for that business so that you can break it down into something simple? How does that work?
Yeah, so there are like overarching like themes or buckets and check marks that they got to, get going with their strategy, but it all aligns with their goals, their overall business goals and their goals for their social media efforts. So, and that could be different depending on industry, depending on company size, how long they've been in business. So there is a lot of customization that goes into building a strategy, but there are, like I said, some tick marks that need to be addressed within that strategy.
Got it. So how did Osnap Social come to be? So you worked for a company for a long time and then you ventured off on your own. Why did you do that? And how did you come up with the name?
Oh, yeah. What a great question. I started Osnap Social. Honestly, I was laid off from a startup and I was like, I can't just sit here. I can apply for all these jobs. I can't just sit here with nothing. And it was in a time where it was at the end of the year, Q4, not a lot of people were hiring. I applied. I was like, but I'm not going to just sit here. I built my website. I built my brand. I ran my side hustle for 5 years before I took it full time for myself. In fact, my first job, I turned into one of my first clients and then kind of just snowballed from there. And I still worked for agencies off and on. And I'm never looking back. This is way too much fun. I'm having way too much fun. But Osnap Social, I don't know. I feel like I've always been really good at naming things. It's kind of weird. I just came up with the name. I looked it up and no one else had it, secured the domain and, working on the trademarks. So, it's one of those things that, and I also love alliteration a lot. So almost everything I name has alliteration that you might notice as a theme about me, but yeah.
I love that. I'm the same way. So we're in the midst of building a tech startup right now called Mentor, and it's an app. And one of our taglines is make mentorship mainstream. And so I'm a big fan of alliteration. I absolutely love that. So I can agree with you. So I want you to know, Karlyn, that this is obviously, for those listening, and this isn't the first episode we've done on marketing, but man, I feel like it's so crucial because I'm a small business owner. I own a daycare center. And I feel like if you can build a brand that people love, or you can create a relationship with your audience, like customers will buy way more with you spending way less on marketing. But it's like content creation is that thing that like business owners they don't want to deal with, right? Like I have a marketing background, but it's a very specific type of marketing leadership, right? Like I know when I open up my daycare, it's like, dude, I just don't want to have to like think about it. I don't understand it. There's 50,000 social media platforms. It's going to be way too much effort. I don't know where to focus my time. And so I'll just be wasting my time. Like, can you speak to some of these things? Like, how can you take the overwhelming and make it manageable? And how important is it that people get a handle on this as a business, and what kind of returns on their bottom line? I know I actually like 50 questions here, but I just want to have you kind of speak to this mindset.
Absolutely. I think the overwhelm is 100% real. We all feel it because we all see everyone else doing it. And we already feel like we're behind the curve and like, oh my gosh, I can't keep up with like all the people that are showing us the highlight reel. How do I, So I always, to ease people's stresses, I always say, start with who your audience is. Who do you want to serve? Who do you want to help? Who is the ideal customer? Because even if you're not serving your ideal customers right now, how can you reach them through whatever content you're putting out there on social? Now, to take that a step further, if you know who your audience is, you can do a little bit of market research, right, to find out where they're hanging out. There's tons of free tools called Google, and you can find out the average age demographic for who your audience is. Now, the lines are starting to 100% blur, And then if you're like, well, they're everywhere. All my audience is on all the platforms.
Right.
Then I say, pick the one that you like most, that that you see yourself going to late at night to scroll, mindlessly through. If you're not a social person, we can chat. But, start with where you like to engage, where you like, digest content. Start there. So that's another great way to kind of stifle overwhelm. Get really good at that one platform before feeling like you have to branch out into all of them.
Do you have a formula for like what kind of content somebody would publish? Like, I mean, let's say that you're working with a company and they have an idea of what platform their audience is hanging out. Like, what kind of content provides the most value?
Yeah. So data right now has been showing me across industries. So it doesn't even matter if you're a hairstylist, a real estate agent, or a corporate executive. People want to see your face. People want to see other people. So I always say step out from behind the logo and be you. Because it's really easy to hide behind the logo, but a logo, unless you're like Coca-Cola, like that's like established brand over however many years they've been in business, right?
Right.
People do business with people. They don't have like especially now when there's so many options out there for them to do business and so many solutions. They want to feel relatable to the person. Just the other day, I did a collaboration on LinkedIn with someone and it was a win-win because I got exposed to their network. They got exposed to mine. And someone from their network booked a call with me because she loved my energy so much. That appealed to her.
Right.
Right. So you're not going to be for everyone, and that's perfect. That's actually what you want.
Right.
Because if you're for everyone, you're also at the same time for no one. So be okay with stepping out there and being you. And I have a love-hate relationship with the word authenticity, but because it's overused in the marketing industry, like a lot, I have a love-hate relationship with that, but definitely be who you are. Don't try to be.
Gotcha. Now, I keep hearing this term all the time now called edutainment. It's where you're educating people, but you're doing it in a way that's entertaining. That's probably why TikTok is blowing up right now. But is that a strategy? Because I get that, obviously, and I'm trying to lead down a clear path, right? As a business owner wanting to know this stuff myself. I have my business. I understand who my audience is. I know where they hang out. I know that they need to see me. And so now I'm like, okay, what should I talk about? Like, I think that's the number one question anybody always asks when they're going to create content, right? Like, should I talk for an hour? Should I talk about 5 minutes? Should I educate them, entertain? Like, what in the world should I start with? Like, is there any kind of a formula that give people a guideline of just like what they should start saying when they're producing content?
I absolutely say the frequently asked questions. What are people asking you most? How many times are you repeating yourself on those sales calls and you're just tired of repeating yourself? Do content for that. Do, whether it's a video, whether it's a blog post that expands a little bit more, whether it's a blog post that you turn into a video later. Because again, I want to encourage the small business owners that are listening to this, do whatever platform you want to focus on, create content that feels most real to you. If you're like, I'm not a video person, great. Don't do video. Think of another creative way where there's an image and a caption that tells a story, whether it's an audio through a podcast or something similar. Do what fits you and then start to expand. Because I think people get really wrapped up into doing like all of the things when really they should be focusing on doing one thing really, really well and expanding from there. Because you can still reach a lot of people if you are a wordsmith and you can create compelling content through stories, or whether you're more like crazy and energized like me and you like to be on video and talk and engage that way. So start there.
Gotcha. Awesome. So now, does what we're talking about, I mean, do you think this applies to all businesses? So like, let me give you an example. So I think like, I'm thinking like a dentist, right? Like a lot of dentists are probably thinking, well, maybe I'll just do some SEO. I'm not going to create any content because people only call me when they have a toothache, and then they're just going to go to Google and type in dentist near me. So there's no sense in me trying to create any kind of a brand or content. Like, is that true, or is that like a terrible way of thinking?
For me as a social media person, that's a terrible way of thinking. Because a lot of people are not talking about their dentist every day.
Right.
But if you as a dental professional can show up where your patients are hanging out regularly and being in front of their face, whether they stop and like watch you, do a little educational video dressed up in a molar costume, which by the way, that is a thing that one of my clients did recently
Yep.
because it can't be open during these times
Right.
because of, what we're going through as a country in the world. But they took it upon themselves to go, okay, let's entertain the kids while they're at home with some dental facts. Like staying top of mind, especially when right now you can't be open, or maybe you had to shift the way you're doing business. Right now is the time to show up online where people are hanging out.
Awesome. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's very helpful. All right. Well, I'm excited to get into what you have created, I don't want to say patented yet, but your patented fan fire starter framework. And, I want you to spend a little time talking about that. What is it, how it works, and how it helps all of your clients make way more money?
Absolutely. So yeah, this is the fan fire starter framework. Again, alliteration. Try to say it 4 times fast. It's a little difficult, I'm not going to lie. But it's really my process that whether you're a small business, a solopreneur, or a larger kind of corporate type of business, this is the pathwork and the framework that I guide all of my clients through. And then I'll talk about 2 different ways that I can engage with each. So first, and often the missed step by a lot of folks, is the pulse check or an audit. Pulse check is just a less scary word for audit, to be honest. So this is where we kind of put a stake in the ground and measure where you currently are with all of your forms. So what is your audience demographic like? Yes, we measure your followers, even though that is not the end all be all. That is a important point to like show in the metrics. What's the average post per week? Which content is performing well? So if you're doing like 1 video every 3 months and those are the top performing pieces of content, then it makes sense from a metrics perspective to maybe incorporate more video content into your strategy. Leading into that, right, is bringing that strategy, crafting that strategy, setting up those expectations for yourself or other people on your team to know how the social media efforts that you're deploying impact the overall business goals, because they do need to be aligned.
Right.
They need to feed each other, right? And a lot of people, again, it feels hard to kind of put that expectation out there. And these goals are, a lot of us have heard, SMART goals, right? So SMART, is specific, measurable, attainable, results driven, and time bound. So, and relevant, SR, relevant. Right. Also results driven. But so really laying those out and mapping that out is really important piece of the strategy. Within that too, you'll also have kind of parameters of how to behave online, what your tone is, because even though your website might be a little bit more buttoned up, social does lend itself to more conversation. So how does that conversation, at what point do you kind of tread the line without being too off brand? Next is the implementation piece. This is like the fun part. This is like my favorite part, where you get into the content creation mode, you brainstorm, you leverage the strategy. Right. Everything always tailors back to the strategy to create content that feels good for you, good for your brand, and with your audience in mind always.
Awesome. So, now, I wanted to add something too, because, and I'm sure you might even cover this, but this is something that I've really learned that I wish I'd known a long time ago, is just the power of repurposing. Like I didn't realize, like, I'm like, oh my God, I've got to create content for this and this. And I'm just like, no, I can make a YouTube video, and there are all these companies out there, technology companies, that allow you to take your video and turn it into smaller clips and turn it into audio and turn it into Instagram and LinkedIn posts. And I'm like, why wasn't I doing this? So like you said, it jogged my mind when you said that. I'm just like, man, like that's one way to break down the overwhelming and make it unbelievably manageable.
Yeah. And that's how I can create content super duper fast for people. Right. So, taking that blog post, like I mentioned, or, and transforming it into a video, taking the video and transforming it into a blog post. And then each of those subtitles of your blog post that we see all the time, like top 5 ways to do XYZ, each of those 5 ways can be its own social media post. So I think people don't, frame, like it feels hard and it feels like a huge weight, because again, they're not thinking of different ways to repurpose or to leverage the power of evergreen content, right? Which is this, what evergreen content means is it never goes stale. It's something that's always relevant to your business, no matter what.
So like COVID-19 content's probably not evergreen content.
No, it is not. So not have that be, but like something like an FAQ, always evergreen unless the answer randomly changes, which I'm not sure in what instance it would, because as long as you're, consistent with your business, that should be always the same. So that's why we say, like, start with that. If you're not answering those questions in a creative way on social, start there. It's easiest.
Awesome.
And then keep track of that community engagement of where they have questions and adding that in.
I love that. Now, can you go into I love case studies, by the way, just because it takes a theory and brings it into real life, right? So can you share a little bit about a client or a business that you've worked with, where they were at in the very beginning, and just what are some of the things that you specifically did with them and what kind of transformation took place after that? Absolutely.
So this is the one that has the most numbers associated with it, and I was really excited to share this. It is a floral designer. She's pretty well known in the industry. Now she's beyond weddings, but she does big corporate events, weddings. She also is a powerhouse of an educator. So I worked with her to create a phased approach for, now this is getting a little technical, but for a relaunch. So she already launched her course or her product, her educational product in April of last year. And then October, she wanted to relaunch it.
What was she teaching?
She was teaching event design.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah. And how to run that business, right? So how to be a profitable floral designer that gets paid the high dollars. Super niche. I was like, okay. But her audience, because they're super niche, they're a little bit easier to find and engage with because you could talk directly at them. Because she knew who her audience was, we could craft content, we could create ad campaigns that were relevant to them and find them easily. And so again, it was a very layered, much like an onion approach of creating a cold audience campaign so people have never heard of her before, and a warm audience, which is a list that she had from an email list. Now, the caveat with the email list is we actually had to extract the people that had already bought it because we don't want to spend dollars that we don't need to spend on people that already bought the thing. So, got it. Yeah. And then marketing those too. And what I thought was interesting, because I think that if you take nothing else away from this, the people that are listening, data drives or should drive the majority of your decisions once you have data in your hands. So her audience on Instagram was really, really popular. She had a lot of engagement there. But from a paid perspective, and this is why it's important to have a strategy and willing for it to be flexible. Something that she thought would be really great from a selling standpoint, people did not buy from her on Instagram. People bought from her on Facebook.
Interesting.
So, and I think what it had to do with is Instagram, people are still, back in October, we're not as privy to buy anything on Instagram versus Facebook, where it feels a little bit more normal on that platform.
That's true. I'm the same way. I barely ever buy anything on Instagram just because it's all pictures and that's funny. Never thought about that, but it's absolutely true.
And it's getting a little bit more shoppable with, all the features that they're adding, but the conversion rate was a lot lower and we were, allocating dollars, especially in the beginning, appropriately. So long story short there, in 21 days, we about quadrupled her income from those ads. So we made her $40,000 in 21 days.
Wow. That is, and teaching event floral design, what's the target? How do you even find, outside of a list she already had, how do you even target people like that? How do you even find them? I'm interested. How did you locate people outside of her list?
Yeah. So Facebook targeting is pretty dang specific. I was floral design and it bloop. And I was okay, it was floral designer, bloop. And finding the magazines that people are interested in that, finding lifestyle types of people that resonate with those folks. And you have to also remember that she was consistently in tandem with this educational piece, consistently asking people from an organic standpoint, meaning she didn't pay, to join her list.
Got it.
she wasn't shy about asking. And I think that's where a lot of business owners feel a little choked up. They're like, I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to ask. But if you really believe in yourself and in the product that you're putting out into the world, that this is going to change people's lives,
right,
you need to ask.
Awesome. I love that. I love everything that you're saying as far as targeting, where, picking a social media, sticking with it, focusing on frequently asked questions in your industry to create. Because you're basically just letting your audience tell you what to teach them. It doesn't get any more simple than that.
Yeah.
So, share with me a little bit, like when you're first starting out, let's say somebody's just brand new, they're starting a business, they don't have a reputation or anything like that. They don't have a big marketing budget and, they're already wearing 50 hats. What are some simple things that they can do on day one that don't take a lot of time, but would create the most impact if they are consistent? And that brings me to my second question was like, how consistent should someone be creating? Like how consistently should they be creating? Is it daily, weekly, 3 times a week? Like, what do you see?
Yeah, amazing. So the first question, day one, make sure whatever platform you're setting up for yourself is properly branded and properly optimized. So example, LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
I'm loving LinkedIn right now because the organic reach of eyeballs seeing your content and then engaging and building that, it's like bananas. And it's bananas. Anyway, if you are really strategic with your headline there and coming up with keywords that reflect your ideal industry or your ideal client of what they are looking for, that could be a game changer. Someone found me through finding social media trainer. And I think I have that not even in my headline. I have social media in my headline, but trainers in like the experience section. And I popped up in their search. They called me and it landed me, a several month training gig with their company. So,
interesting.
Thinking about keywords and being strategic about it, right? Instead of being like, well, is this content going to change the course of my business? It might, but you have to tweak and test over time. I think that's the key is people get really frustrated if the first thing that they put out there online doesn't like go viral, which don't even get me started on that term, which is making a resurgence because of TikTok right now. But anyway, I digress. Really being, and then going to your consistency point is there's not a magic number for that. And I think that's probably not the ideal answer that anyone wants to hear that's listening, but you have to find a cadence that's something that you can manage. So if you're a small business owner and you have 87 million hats that you're wearing, if you can put out one piece of content every week, yes, do that. But be consistent every single week. Every Thursday, boop, it goes out. If you're, and you're seeing some return from that, if you're like, okay, you know what, I have a little bit more time, maybe I'll do 2 times a week, and you just kind of keep leveling up from there. But I think you have to start slow because social media right now is a long-term game.
Right.
You're in it for the long haul.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, let's say that a business owner didn't want to deal with it and they would rather outsource it. But earlier you mentioned that, the audience wants to see you. They want to see your face. Like, do you still force them to get out and do it? You just manage everything after the fact? Is that how it works?
Yep, that's how it works. It's funny because I am having a wonderful conversation with this. He's got 30 years in the real estate business. And I'm like, and I'm doing his social content and I'm like, I know what's going to perform. And that's going to be you sharing your expertise of 30 plus years in a digestible format, like a video, because we post like him working at his computer and it gets a ton more likes than like a stock image or flat lay of like his business card and stuff. People want to see faces, and the algorithm on Facebook and Instagram especially are feeding of that personal connection, that relatability. So yeah, I kind of like hold their feet a little bit to the fire, and they might not like it in the beginning, but once you rip the Band-Aid, they're like pumped and they're like, you know what, this was kind of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And so my last question on just this line of questioning is how are you tracking engagement? Like, are you using tools for that? Are you looking at comments? Are you looking at sales? Are you looking at several different analytics? Like, you can advise someone to do all kinds of things, right? But how are you measuring, and what metrics are you using to measure results from any given campaign or years of consistent content creation?
Yeah. So I love me some tools, but I also want people listening to understand is each platform has their own native tools that can be very powerful. So don't think that like, oh, in order to measure any of my success, I need all these tools, because that's just not the case. Again, what you measure always goes back to whatever your goals are. So if I am, for instance, trying to increase my website traffic by 2% in quarter 1 or quarter 2, I guess, right? We're already almost in quarter 2.
Yep.
I need to make sure that I either know this or I have a web person that helps me do this, measure how much traffic my social media is generating onto my website. And how I do that is I have to make sure that my content that I'm putting out there has a link to my website. Like, what is your call to action? Every single piece of content you put out there needs to have a call to action, whether it's, hey, go look at my blog, click over. Or, hey, do you like iced coffee more than hot coffee? Like, get people to have that conversation. And it can be personal in nature, especially in the beginning when people don't know you and are looking for that hook to feel like that you're relatable to them. But yeah, use Google Analytics. Google Analytics is a great free tool that you should, one, make sure is connected on your website. And two, there's a way to set up tracking codes. This is getting a little in the weeds, but there's a way to see which pieces of content are generating the most traffic or what blog post is the most popular. So you can kind of keep promoting that because it's getting people to take action on the other side. So measuring that, I would say that conversion, whether it's getting someone's email address or booking a 1-hour paid strategy call or booking a call with you or buying your thing, whatever your thing is, be able to reverse engineer that back to its original place of inception.
Yeah, absolutely. So that leads me to two quick things. Number one, so one of the things you are saying is you need to have a call to action for pretty much every piece of content because you need to be able to measure it. And then number two, I don't know if you were were you talking more along the lines of like the pixel, like being able to track where they go? Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Facebook, yeah. Facebook pixels are great to set up whether you're running ads or you're not, because if you can condition a pixel, it'll help you know more data about your people on Facebook in particular. But I'm talking even like there's a way back into Google Analytics, right? To see, there's a social section and you can see all the different codes. So if you set up like your about page and you create what they call a UTM code, which is like a bunch of gobbledygook that helps you understand what the source of that link click was. And if you set up as Facebook,
right,
and it goes into your Google Analytics and you can kind of see that thread a little bit easier. And I think that's again, a little bit more high level, but I think if people really want to understand, again, it's worth taking the time to do that extra step because you really have an understanding.
And if you don't, just hire Karlyn. She'll do it for you. And for those listening that don't understand what we're talking about when it comes to pixels and analytics, it's like the best example I can give is if you ever go to a website and you literally leave the website and then you wonder why, like, let's say you're looking for a knife or a pan and you leave the website and then like all of a sudden magically every social media platform, you see that damn knife, somebody selling other knives, right? You're like, how do they know your YouTube? And like, how do they know? It's because they have a pixel that captured your information when you went to the website and now they are retargeting you over and over and over and over.
Big brother of the internet.
Yeah, it's like, it's just, marketing is so interesting to me because it's like, if you understand it, you own the game. Like you can basically print money. And it's one of those things like, it's okay to delegate it, but you have to take it serious. Like you have to take it seriously because the companies that do are dominating. You know, they have funnels that are funneling you all. You don't even realize it sometimes until you pay attention to it. But it's like data is king, like you said earlier. It's so crazy. It's so crazy. So you've talked a lot about things that people and businesses can do, how to create content, you know, like approaches. What are some things that people should not do? What are some things that you see businesses do that are really stupid or they shouldn't be doing, or like some of the big no-nos or mistakes that you see that just make you shake your head?
These are probably going to be a little unpopular, but I'm going to do it anyway. For LinkedIn right now, and I don't know who started this, but it's annoying, and I've been victim to it, is where people that you know that are in your network tag you in their post on LinkedIn and you have nothing to do with their post. It's like they just wanted you to see it. And you're like, I'll see it if it's good content. Don't tag me if I'm not in the picture, if I'm not in the post, if it's not my link article that you shared. So don't do that. Don't tag people just because you think you will get more eyeballs and like you're hacking the game. You aren't. You're really just annoying people. Since we're on the LinkedIn train too, if you are a business owner that is wanting to leverage LinkedIn, don't have a virtual assistant, because I actually don't even do this for my clients, manage your inbox for you. It gets really inauthentic really quickly. And as an example, I've met someone several times at a networking event. I even went to her like workshop, like I paid and went to her workshop. And then we connected after the fact on LinkedIn, and she sent me a message, or her virtual assistant sent me a message that didn't address like, thanks for coming to my workshop, blah, blah, blah. It like nothing. It felt very canned, very not genuine. And for me, and a lot of people, right? Like people are smart and hip to all these like marketing guru techniques.
Yep.
And they can smell that from a mile away. So just don't do that. What else? Instagram.
Any content creation no-nos? Like, I was going to say like no religion or no politics, something like that.
That's always my strategy. Things not to talk about. Don't talk about politics. Don't talk about religion. Don't talk about like National Puppy Day if it has nothing to do with your business and you just want the extra like hits. Don't make up an office dog if you don't have an office dog. Seen that before. That was weird. And I think something that, people do a lot of even still, don't put links in your Instagram captions because they do not work. They are not clickable links. Stop doing that. Stop it.
That's so funny you say that, because I did that for a while. And I had somebody reach out for the podcast, right? And they're like, man, listen, what you need to do is create a link tree and put it in your, in like the heading part. And then just when you make your post, just say link in bio. Stop putting your damn link in there because I can't click it.
Yeah.
And
if you are like, how do I click this? I don't know. And so like you're confusing your people. Yeah. And I would even say something that I just recently did for my own Instagram is because I want the traffic to my website. I created like my URL /links, and it's basically my own link tree, but I get all the traffic.
That's awesome. And it's true too. And I just want to, because I just discovered this the other day. I have a lead magnet that I created on my website for the podcast. It's called How to Get Millionaires to Mentor You. And so I spent about 2 weeks creating this blueprint. And, what I was trying to do, I made a post on Facebook as soon as it was done. And it was just like, hey, I created this free blueprint. Just head on over to mentornation.com. And I had, it was a link. So you click mentornation.com, but it's the craziest thing. So if you type in your browser mentornation.com and you hit enter, my pop-up will come up where you can put your name and email and submit, and the blueprint comes. But if you click on mentornationwebsite.com from Facebook, it still takes to my website. But when you put the information in and hit submit, something crazy happens. And it does not, it leads to some other, it's like Facebook doesn't want you, we're still working through it, but Facebook doesn't want you to leave Facebook. And so there's like this extra barrier. And I'm just like, oh, this is crazy. So I'm having to like modify what I'm doing. But the point is like, these are just like little no-nos and things like that. This has been super helpful. So I want you to spend another minute before we wrap up. We're almost out of time, and just share a little bit about kind of what you do, what your company does, how to connect with you, what kind of clients you best serve, and how people can follow you, where to find you, and so on and so forth.
Awesome. Yeah. So I help small business owners and solopreneurs just not stress about the number of followers they have, but instead really focus on creating money into their bank account through social media strategies, content creation, and with the added bonus of, empowering them and educating them to take the reins and run. So I am the master of the setup game. Right. I set you up for success, and I educate you and empower you to feel confident doing a lot of the implementation yourself, which some people might say, whoa, that feels scary. There are other ways you can work with me to rent my brain basically for half a day to create like 6 months of content in a half a day. Like we will get it done and done. And you can find me on osnapsocial.com. All my social media icons are there. You can catch all the behind the scenes stuff at Osnap Social Karlyn on Instagram. There's a lot of stories being created over there.
And I'll put all this in the show notes for everybody to have access to. So people can work with you obviously in different ways, right? Yes, like, so they can work with you to get set up. They can work with you and have you guide them, mentor them, as consultant. Okay, great. That's fantastic. So as we wrap up, you're talking to a bunch of people right now. Out of everything we talked about in the last 45 minutes, what's the big, if you could leave them with one or two big takeaways that no matter what, even if all of this interview is in one ear and out the other, what would be the one or two big takeaways that you want to leave everybody with?
Just start. Because if you overthink it, it'll never get done and you'll never know what could be. And always leverage data and the power of numbers to make your decisions.
I love that. That was very powerful. Guys, this is Karlyn. She dropped a lot of knowledge on us today. Karlyn, I want to thank you for your time. You absolutely crushed it. I cannot wait for everybody to listen to this and just to get the feedback that I know that I'm going to get. Thank you for your time today. And hopefully we'll get the opportunity to have you on the show again.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This has been way too much fun.
Awesome. All right, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that episode. The links to connect with Karlyn are going to be in the show notes, and you should definitely do so. After interviewing her and getting to know her, she's just such a genuine person, and you can just tell within 2 minutes of connecting with her that she genuinely loves and cares about people, and she wants everyone around her to win. And in my personal opinion, those are the people that you want to surround yourself with in life. People that always champion what you're doing, whatever you're building. It's just people that live in abundance instead of scarcity. So she's a fantastic person. I know she would enjoy hearing from you, especially if her message resonated with you. And man, guys, I'm just fired up for some of the episodes that I have coming over the next few weeks. Some of them are already recorded. Some of them, I don't want to share yet who the guests are going to be, but just trust me when I tell you, I am getting my flow in podcasting. I'm getting better and better guests. Some of the people I reached out to a long time ago are responding, and I'm just so excited for the future, but definitely stay connected with me, guys. Subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, just stay with me on this journey because I promise you in 6-12 months from now, the content is going to literally be world-class, right up there with some of the biggest podcasts on the planet. Mark my words, I promise you this. So thank you guys for tuning in. I hope all of you are staying safe. You're making it happen. You're not using the pandemic or all of the craziness that's going on in the world right now as an excuse to hold you back from what you want in your dreams. Go make it happen. There are no excuses. Push every single day. Don't focus on what's happening to the world around you. Focus on your world and your economy, and I promise you, you'll get through to the other side, and you'll be shocked at what you were created. Take care, guys, and I'll see you next week.